What horror movie poster was your favorite or freaked you out as a kid? Maybe it's on this list. Hey, how you doing? It is I, the Terrorific Lady, otherwise known as Brandy, and welcome to Retro Horror School and a happy Friday to you. Today we're going to be talking about my, or what I believe to be the top 10 best movie posters of the 80s. Because let's face it, as a kid, sometimes the posters and even the cover art on VHS boxes, because sometimes the cover art and the poster were one and the same. They are what drew me in. They are what freaked me out. And they're also probably what drew you in and freaked you out about horror movies as well. A horror movie poster is as much a part of the experience as a horror movie itself. I'm going to be ranking my top 10 favorites of the 1980s. I'm going to be ranking them according to two things: how memorable the poster is, the memorability factor of it, and does it represent the theme and the tone of the movie. So be watching this list and comment below if you see one of your favorite movie posters pop up across the screen. Here we go. Number 10 is the poster for the movie Chopping Mall, which came out in 1986. Now, at first glance, it's definitely very memorable. You got the severed hand holding a shopping mall bag of severed body parts. You got the letters that almost look like they're the very red, bright letters, red being synonymous with horror, that almost look like they're kind of dripping blood in a way. And then the tagline where shopping costs you an arm and a leg. But while I think the design of the poster is cool, I don't think it really represents the movie. The movie was originally called Killbots, I believe, before the name was changed to Chopping Mall. Chopping Mall, you would expect it to be a slasher where there was a killer going around chopping people up. And it's actually about security robots in a mall where they go haywire after a lightning strike, and then they're going around and just killing people. The poster is not representative of what the movie is about, but the design is cool. Number 9 is the Return to Horror High. Killer to the left, killer to the right, stand up, sit down, fright, fright, fright. I remember seeing this poster and the VHS box on the shelves of my local movie store as a kid, and it freaked me out. And what would you expect from the title being Return to Horror High? The skeleton cheerleader being on the poster, even though the skeleton is smiling. You would expect a lot of nefarious stuff to be going on in the movie because Return to Horror High, because of the fact that there is a skeleton and the skeleton's wearing a cheerleader outfit, which accurately depicts the setting. It's at I believe if I remember correctly, it's at an abandoned high school. The movie came out in 1987, by the way. So it's at an abandoned high school where I forget something's happened, something's being filmed there, or I don't know like what's happening. But it seems to be almost a ripoff of Halloween. It seems like almost a lot of slashers in the 80s were direct ripoffs of either Halloween or Friday the 13th, which was itself a ripoff of Halloween. But there's a lot of comedic elements in this film. So you could classify this more as a horror comedy slasher, which clashes with what the poster was trying to portray. Poster freaked me out, clashed with what the movie is really about. Number 8 is Creepshow 2, which came out in 1987, the sequel to the 1982 horror anthology film Creepshow. You got the creep once again on the poster, drawn in almost a comic booky style, pointing to a movie theater screen. It is a dark movie theater, and he's in the back, and he's saying, the tagline say, when the curtain goes up, the terror begins, good to the last gasp. You're expecting to see the creep again the same way and the same kind of fashion that you saw the creep in the first Creep Show. And With Creepshow, you're expecting an anthology, which you got. You're expecting to see the creep in the same way that you saw him in the first film, but you didn't. Not really. There's a weird animated style to this version of the creep that clashes with the poster. He looks almost comedic rather than creepy like he did in the first movie and like on this poster. My expectations for the creep were kind of shattered, but with this poster and its cool design, I was expecting an anthology and I got an anthology. My only disappointment was the way the creep was portrayed in the movie as opposed to the poster. Number 7 is Evil Dead 2 Dead by Dawn, which came out in 1987. I'm just a lot of movies that came out in 1987. But anyway, on the poster of Evil 2 Dead by Dawn, you have a skeleton and its eye sockets are manipulated to where you see human eyes staring out at you. And it is a white skull on a solid black background. It makes the skull pop. The skull is realistic. And the fact that it has human eyes is kind of unnerving. That freaked me the hell out when I was a kid. Just that human eyes staring out of a skull. What people probably were expecting, when I was definitely expecting with looking at how this poster was designed, something similar to the first Evil Dead. I was not expecting a requel, which is pretty much a remake of the first one. I definitely was not expecting the slapstick tone. It was a welcome surprise, and there were some parts that made me go, eh. But I have to wonder why they chose to do a skull on this poster as opposed to maybe a Deadite style face. I don't know. I'm thinking maybe a Deadite style face would have been better on this poster, but if you look at a lot of horror movie posters from the 80s, skulls galore, skulls, skeletons. I guess they probably figured out Evil Dead 2. We'll slap a skull on there, close enough. So the poster is very well designed and it is unnerving. And the movie, while it has a very goofy comedic tone, in some ways was also unnerving. The poster didn't dampen my expectations for this movie. Let's put it that way. Number 6 is Friday the 13th, Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan, which came out in 1989. And even though I don't feel the same way about the movie as I did a long time ago, in fact, you can see where I ranked that movie in my Friday the 13th franchise ranking video. I'll provide the link for that up above. But even though I don't feel the same about the movie now as I did back then, the design for this poster is still pretty kick-ass. New York has a new problem. The tagline, it's like, yeah, New York's gonna have a problem. And you have Jason holding his knife, and the way they have the poster, it almost looks like he's gripping the buildings of Manhattan. And then the way the knife is positioned is large and imposing, and he just looks like ready to slash and hack. The design is cool, but as far as it matching the tone or themes of the film, he was only in Manhattan for like the last 40 minutes of the movie. So there goes that. He didn't really take Manhattan for the entire time. It was only for 40 minutes. The knife on the poster is more of a Michael Myers style knife, and Jason is well known for carrying a machete around. So there's those expectations shattered. In a movie where the expectation is set to where he's going to take Manhattan, and it's only in the last 40 minutes of the movie that he does, then that poster it's got a big minus on it already. It's ranked as high as it is because I've always thought the design was cool. And yeah, he was in Manhattan, just, for not as long as this poster likes to imply. Number 5 is A Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors, which came out in 1987. I had no idea that all the posters I picked were for movies that came out in 1987. I guess I must just like the year 1987. I have no idea. I had no idea what happened there, but yes, Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors, which is, as far as movie wise, pretty high up on my list of favorites. You can see like where I ranked it in my Nightmare on Elm Street franchise ranking. I'll put that link up above. But this poster, depending on which version you look at, has 2 different taglines. One is, if you think you're ready for Freddy, think again. And the other is what this poster portrays: if you think you'll get out alive, you must be dreaming, which is my favorite of the 2 taglines. All the Nightmare on Elm Street posters just very beautifully drawn and designed, and this is no exception. You have Freddy's claws coming out. You have his very larger than life imposing face. You have what looks like a group of young people balanced on the claws. Freddy and the people balanced on his claws are all up in the sky, where there's the little tiny Elm Street house like down below, implying that this is where it all began. The design of it, honestly, in some ways is similar to the Fright Night poster with the small house and the clouds up in the sky and then the vampire face in the clouds. I have to wonder if they took inspiration from that poster. But the tagline of the poster and the fact that the young people on it, most of them are holding weapons, implies that some kind of fight is going to go down, which you definitely get in the movie. The biggest complaint that I hear about this poster, like from people, is the people on this poster look nothing like the people in the movie. And yeah, that's true. If you want to count that as a minus against this poster, but I suppose that you could. And the poster and the way it's drawn has a very almost dreamlike quality to it, which these teens and young people go in to fight Freddy in their dreams and try to defeat him. So you definitely get that from that poster. The only minus, if you're going to call it that, the people on the poster don't match the people in the movie. That never bothered me as much. And this poster has always been one of my favorite designs. There are a few more that I like better than this, and then I feel capture the theme of the movies a little better. Number 4, and you might be shocked at its placement on this list. Doesn't mean I don't like it, I like the poster, but I do. And if you know me, I'm one of the biggest John Carpenter fangirls of all time, but number 4 on my list is the poster for the 1982 movie John Carpenter's The Thing. It is the poster drawn by the famous artist Drew Struzan, who drew a lot of 80s, not just horror movie posters, but movie posters in general. The story behind this poster was that it was a rush job. He didn't really know what the movie was about. And I think he was given 24 hours to come up with an idea. Well, the idea he came up with was pretty damn good. It's paired with the tagline, "The Ultimate in Alien Terror," which draws you in. You have John Carpenter's The Thing, the title of the movie, at the bottom. There's a lot of Arctic whites and light blues and dark blues used in this poster, which the setting is the Antarctic, so that definitely fits. You have a guy who's dressed in cold weather gear, which again, that fits. And then you have this kind of light coming out of his face, which I wish I knew how the heck he did that. The light like effect, like with paint, because that is very cool. While the poster is very cool, it is very iconic. It captures the coldness and the isolation and the fact that it's about people in the Antarctic. I kind of go back and forth between the light coming out of the face, because on the one hand, it looks very cool, but on the other hand, if you were looking at the poster and you hadn't seen it at all, it's just like, okay, well, what does this have to do with the movie? Especially after you watch it, Like, then you can look at the poster and be like, okay, well, what does light coming out of the face have to do with the movie? I'm conflicted because that part of the poster doesn't really go with what the movie is about. But like I said, considering Drew only had like 24 hours, didn't really know what the movie is about, and he came up with this, it's pretty damn good. It will always be one of my favorite posters. I've got it back on my wall. I can't point. There we go. I got it back on my wall. It is one of my pride and joys. And yes, forgive me for making it number 4, but those are my reasons why. Do you think it should be up even higher on my list? Let me know in the comments. Now we're coming up to the top 3 of my favorite horror movie posters from the 80s. Number 3 is the Slumber Party Massacre, which came out in 1982. The writing massacre is in red and that drippy blood letter style. The tagline, close your eyes for a second and sleep forever, is kind of like, oh, geez. And you got the guy, you don't really know what he looks like, but you got the guy, he's standing with that drill, which is his weapon of choice. And you got all the girls in the background dressed in nightgowns. That implies, yes, is a killer at a slumber party. And a lot of stuff is going to happen. This poster is very much what you see is what you get. Your expectations are not going to be thwarted by looking at this poster. It implies that there is going to be a slumber party massacre, and that is exactly what you get. You get a slumber party massacre. You may not be expecting it to be a satire and a parody of slashers, but there are still enough creepy moments that it doesn't go against expectations. I also really like on the poster that the drill is kind of in a certain position, and in the movie his weapon of choice gets lopped off in a way. So yes, take of that what you will, but yeah, very cool poster. I've always loved it. Number 2 is Without Warning, which came out in 1980 and which I believe was the inspiration for the Predator. So no Without Warning, no Predator. You have it preys on human fear. It feeds on human flesh. Without warning, the alien terror is here on Earth. You have an almost kind of fiery, glowing light surrounding this alien on the poster. And all you can really see is his face, because you see painted in the center what looks like a summer camp, and there's a van, and there's very creeped out people. They're like, ha! Which, if I came across an alien that looked like that, I'd probably be ha too. And then the letters Without Warning done in that typical kind of 80s horror style. I like how they did the letters in blue because it complements the blue of the night sky that they used in the center. And again, what you see is definitely what you get with this poster. It's about an alien that comes to Earth, stalks and kills humans. The alien sees it as a game, sees it as fun. There's not a whole lot I could say other than the fact that I think this poster has always perfectly captured what the movie is about. I didn't know it was a direct inspiration for Predator until I saw In Search of Darkness. I don't know why I never made that connection, but when I saw a documentary they mentioned that, I was like, oh, well, yeah, that makes a whole lot of sense. But love the colors of the poster, love how it's designed, love again that this is basically what you see is what you get. And number 1 is the poster for Larry Cohen's The Stuff, which came out in 1985. The whole poster centers itself as a warning. So you got a guy that's like, ha, like he's screaming. He's got like all this white goo coming out of his eyes and mouth. You look at it, you're like, oh God, that's disgusting. And then the warning of this poster is, if you see the stuff in stores, call the police. If you have it in your home, don't touch it. Get out. The stuff is a product of nature, a deadly living organism. It is addictive and destructive. It can overcome your mind and take over your body, and nothing can stop it. And the letters themselves, the stuff, look very kind of drippy and goopy itself. I always loved, and I thought it was clever that they centered this poster as a warning, because it will make you stop and look and be like, oh my God, there's going to be some stuff going down here. We're going to have lots of mayhem. It's going to be like a blob-like creature. A lot of people are going to die. What is this? What is the stuff? I've got to watch this movie. And then when you watch this movie, the warning accurately depicts what's in the movie. It's about a substance called the stuff. It looks like a cross between yogurt and ice cream, but it's actually an alien life form that if you eat it, it overtakes you. And then eventually it just like overtakes this entire town. And yeah, again, another case of what you see is what you get with this poster. I feel this is the best example of a horror movie poster that is well designed, that is what you see is what you get, but is still intriguing and leaves enough out to where you're not spoiled just from looking at this poster. And there you have it. There are my top 10 favorite movie posters of the 1980s. Did your favorite 80s movie poster make it to this list? If it didn't, let me know your favorite in the comments below. Like and share with fellow horror fans and people who love learning about and discussing horror. It really does help. And if you're not already subscribed, then why don't you do that and also hit the bell so that way you never miss a Russia Horror School class. I'm going to toss up a few more videos here I think you might like. And sadly, class is dismissed, everybody, for now, but I will see you next time. Bye.